Okay, here we go with sheet 6. First question, find the equation of the perpendicular bisector. Now, the bisect means it cuts in half, perpendicular means at right angles. So that tells us we've got two things we need to find. We need to find the midpoint and we need to find the perpendicular gradient. Well, the midpoint should be quite easy because the midpoint formula says add the x numbers together in half, add the y numbers together in half. So that will tell you the point here. Then we need to find the perpendicular gradient. So if we work out the gradient of the line that's there first of all, MAB, so find out what that is and then get the perpendicular gradient. Substituting all of that information into your y minus b equals mx minus a will get you the answer. Now don't worry if you get a fraction for one of these answers, you're supposed to. Second question is just our standard recurrence relation. The pollution in the river next week is equal to, well, if the river removes 90%, there's going to be 10% of this week's pollution plus the extra 6 that the company wishes to discharge. You work out the limit using your formula, L equals C over 1 minus M. Once you've got that limit, write your conclusion. Remember to state a reason why you're concluding this. Question 3, find the range of the function. Now the easiest way to find the range of a function is to sketch it. So y equals x squared minus 3, it's an x squared graph, which is an up and down, a happy smiley face graph, and the minus 3 means it's been moved down 3 units. So we've got a happy graph that's been moved down 3 units. So it's going to look something like that. Goes through there at negative 3. The range, remember, is the y coordinates. So when you look at this picture here, you need to tell me what y coordinates that picture exists for. So y is a member of the real numbers such that y, what? You fill in the rest. Question 4. Triangle PQR has the vertices. So that was a quick sketch, gives you that diagram there. First one we're going to do is we're going to work out the altitude. Now to find an altitude, the 3 steps that we go through is we find the gradient of the opposite side. So there's your altitude there. So we find the gradient of QR. Then we find the perpendicular gradient. And then we use the point P into y minus b equals mx minus a. So if you do all that, that will get your equation of the altitude. Secondly, we're going to find the gradient of the median. Now the median is a line through P which cuts this side in half. So the procedure for that, first thing we do is we find the midpoint. Then we find the gradient between P and that midpoint. And then we use y minus b equals mx minus a. And then for the last part of the question, what type of triangle does it have? It should be obvious from your 2 answers what type of triangle it actually is. Question 5. State the coordinates and centre. That's easy for part A. That shouldn't be a problem. Part B. The line x plus y cuts a circle at 2 points. So we need to take the x plus y equals 8. And we're going to rewrite that as y equals, now I'm going to write it as 8 minus x. I'm going to put the x at the end rather than have the negative signs in the front. Now I just need to substitute that in here for y and in here for y. And if I do all that, I'll eventually end up with x equals, which I can then find the y equals. The way I find the y equals is to substitute it back into the y equals formula, the one that we've got here, y equals 8 minus x. So that's going to give us 2 points where the line crosses. Part C, find the coordinates of the midpoint. Well, we've done this twice already in the homework, so it shouldn't be too hard to find the midpoint. Then part D, a second circle has the same centre as the original and has AB as a tangent. So we need to draw inside this circle another circle which has got the same centre and AB as a tangent. So you have a picture that looks something like that. What's the equation? Well, since we know the centre, we can write down the first part of the formula. All we need to know, or all we try to find, is what actually is the r, what is the radius. And the way we're going to do that, since we know the coordinates of the centre, we've got that from part A. We know the coordinates of the midpoint, we got that from part C. So if I work the distance out between the centre and the midpoint, that's going to give me the radius, which I can then substitute into the formula. Question 6. These are the questions that's been asked. I won't do those, I'll do a similar one. So let's say I did 4x squared plus 8x minus 1. So I would take 4 as a common factor. Now remember, I'll only take it out the first 2 bits. Leave my minus 1 at the end. Then I complete the square. So x squared plus 2x gives me x plus 1 in the brackets. Now the 1 squared in the bracket would give me an extra 1. But I've got to multiply that by 4. So 4 times 1 gives me 4. How do I get from there back to minus 1? By taking off 5. 4 take away 5 is minus 1. And that's it done. Again, let me do one of these for you. 7 take away 4x, take away x squared. I would do 7 take away, now take negative 1 out as a common factor. That's going to give me x squared plus 4x. Please note that the sign changes, because the negative sign on the outside times that positive would give me the negative back. So note the sign changes. Then do your complete the square. 7 minus, now x squared plus 4x would give me an x plus 2 in the brackets. The brackets is going to give me an extra 2 squared 4, but because the negative sign there is going to give me a negative 4. So I'm going to compensate by adding 4 on, and then tidying all that up. My final answer would be 11 minus x plus 2 all squared. So you do the same thing, but for the questions that you're given. Question 8. If this is a function, we need to look at the denominator, the bit at the bottom, because that function is undefined when x squared minus 4x minus 5 is equal to 0. So if I solve that by factorising, I'm going to get 2x numbers. So my domain is going to be x can be any real number as long as x does not equal the first number or the second number. Lastly, prove that the point minus 5, 1 lies on the circle. Well, that's just a case of substituting these numbers into that formula, and hopefully you get 0 coming out. Secondly, find the equation of the tangent. Well, there's your tangent. We know the point, the question just told us, minus 5, 1. We know the centre of the circle, we can get that by looking at it. We can get the gradient of the radius. That's going to give us the gradient of the tangent. And then we can use y minus b to get the final answer.